This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Regrow.
Hey, cannabis operators, got a couple questions for you. Are your SOPs tied directly to your cultivation plans? Can you easily manage your inventory and workforce and vendors from a single system? Can you manage compliance across multiple licenses and states? Do you have performance analytics to help you maximize your 24-month cultivation and manufacturing plans? If this is not the case, Regrow is there to help. They can help you maximize your yields and consistency. Think of Regrow as the single pane of glass view into your entire supply chain. They're available globally with native localization and foreign language support. So if you're a cannabis company searching for a strategic business partner to help you automate your business, scale effectively, and make the supply chain work for you, you can find Regrow at regrow.io. That's regrow.io. Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system. Vishal Rungta, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing well, Kevin. Thanks for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. It is Sunday, and it's a beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas, and we're talking cannabis, man. So can't get much better than that, you know.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm in Buffalo, New York, so I'm not sure that it's the exact same as Dallas, Texas.
Oh man, Buffalo, New York in mid-November. I bet it's already pretty chilly out there. Any snow on the ground yet?
Not yet. We had a couple flurries earlier in the week, but right now there's no snow, but it's coming. It's coming. You can feel the temperature changing.
Yeah, no doubt. I went to school in the Northeast, so I'm very familiar with how harsh those winters can get, man. And they come fast and they stay long, you know.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Not all bad though. There's some perks to the winter. So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I was looking at doing some little research your background, and of course I want to allow the audience to get to know you first and foremost, as you sit as the co-founder, president, and CFO at C3 Industries. But before we talk about C3 Industries, you're a scuba diver, is that right?
I do some scuba diving. Yes, although admittedly it's probably been about 2 years since I've gotten to dive in now, but I have a couple buddies of mine and I who are really into it and tried to go to a few different places to scuba. So it's definitely something I enjoy.
It's a hobby or an activity that I aspire to do one day, and I want to do it a lot. I know that you need to get certified and you got to have all the right equipment and
Yeah,
training. But once you're in, I mean, it seems like just an amazing experience, man.
it is, man. I mean, it's a different world, like almost quite literally, right? So it's exciting. And it's one of the few things where I'm really glad that they make you do all those certifications. You absolutely like actually need to know what you're doing. And like the classes were helpful and it gives you more confidence to really go explore once you're down there. So it's very cool. I would highly recommend it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, that just totally reinforced that interest. So I'm definitely adding it to the bucket list. And my first dive, you'll be the first one to know. So
Perfect. Sounds good.
awesome. Well, let's talk about C3 Industries, the origin story, your role in that origin story. For those listening, C3 Industries is a private MSO with vertically integrated operations in Oregon, Michigan, Missouri, and Massachusetts. So, Vishal, why don't you just kind of talk us through, how the company was founded, you being a co-founder, and kind of, where you're at today.
Sure. Yeah. So company was founded really, I guess, late 2016, but not really officially until probably about the summer of 2017. And the co-founders are myself, my brother, and one of my childhood friends, Joel Ruggiero. And so the three of us actually all, grew up in Western New York. So I mentioned I'm here in Buffalo now. My family and I recently moved back, but we all grew up together, and we've been in and around the industry for most of our adult lives. So, we grew up as consumers. It's something that's been a big part of our lives and lifestyle and remains so today. And as this industry was really kind of coming to fruition and various markets were becoming legal, we had regularly been chatting and we just felt like it was a space that we, again, had been kind of adjacent to for all of our adult lives anyways. If it was going to become a real industry, we wanted to be a part of it. And the nice thing for us is that we have a really kind of complementary, set of skills. So, my background was more in kind of finance and business strategy. My brother Encore, who's our CEO, is a former corporate attorney, and then also was a banker for a while, so understands a lot of structuring and capital markets related activity. And Joel is a longtime cultivator, and he had been in Colorado since 2011. Actually, had hands-on experience operating regulated, compliant, at scale cannabis facilities. He had won a bunch of awards, and so together we felt like we had.
Talk about the perfect trifecta, right? I mean, like you said, the corporate attorney side, the financial side, and then the cultivating side. I mean, and you guys are all childhood friends and brothers. I mean, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it kind of clicked, right? It really worked in a lot of different ways. And it was good too, because we have pretty similar philosophies. We think, again, complementary. You need the ability to raise capital. You need to think about business strategy, scaling, hiring, an organization, and we want to produce really high quality products. And for us, we are an MSO. We don't love that term, and we don't view ourselves as a kind of traditional MSO, meaning, again, we kind of came up in the industry, so we care about the culture, we care about the product quality. We're not trying to be big for the sake of being big. We're going into markets where we think we can really compete, and we're having a high quality product matters. And so for us, it's kind of, walking that line between being able to build a big and successful company in the industry, but really because it's focused on product quality and not losing sight of the culture and the consumer. And we know the attributes that matter, and that's what we focus on, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's really where it started. We all just wanted to be a part of this. And for us, one of our brands is Cloud Cover Cannabis. That's our product brand, and the tagline is "For the Love of Flower," and that's because that's where we grew up. We all grew up smoking flower. It starts first and foremost with producing really high quality flower. And if we can get that right, then we're able to use all of that to produce high quality concentrates, high quality carts, have good retail experiences, and that's kind of how we've approached the business.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about some of the markets that y'all are in. I know that you have strong footprints both in Michigan and Missouri. So why don't you talk a little bit about the Michigan market first, and then the Missouri market, which we haven't talked about at all on this podcast yet until now. So I'm interested to hear what's going on in Missouri.
Sure. Yeah. So for us, Michigan was the second market we got sure. We kind of were concurrently working on Oregon and Michigan. And Michigan in particular is a pretty large market, as I think a lot of people are now aware. And both my brother and I actually went to Michigan for undergrad. He also went there for law school. So we kind of had a nice network in that state, and we knew a lot about cannabis culture in Michigan. And Michigan has a very kind of prolific cannabis culture, I would say. I think it's, at least in the Midwest, I'm not sure that there's really a bigger market with, kind of higher consumption rates and longer standing cannabis culture than Michigan has. And, having grown up in Ann Arbor a bit, when we were at school there, Ann Arbor had hash bash and everything else, right? So it has a culture of kind of cannabis.
What's hash bash? What's that?
So hash bash is something that happens around 420 every year. It's been going on since the 70s. Yeah, a lot of people don't know Ann Arbor, Michigan decriminalized cannabis possession, decades ago, right? Where if you got caught with possession, it was a ticket, right? So it was pretty on the forefront of some of the kind of advocacy around cannabis. And so hash bash happens every year, and you had this whole culture of all these people who were big proponents of the legalization of cannabis. And then obviously, you have a lot of people who are consumers there. And so, having come up in that, it was just somewhere where we naturally wanted to be. We knew Michigan was going to be a big market. We knew there were a ton of consumers there. It had a long-standing kind of, what I'll call a gray market or kind of caregiver market, similar to California. So there just was already all this great kind of momentum in the state. And so, so we planted our flag in Michigan. The company's actually headquartered in Ann Arbor now. And we have a pretty, good sized vertical platform there. So we grow indoor for our Cloud Cover brand. We're also building a large expansion there We also produce carts and concentrates, and then we currently have a dozen retail locations, and we're looking to get to more like 15 to 20, and that's our high profile cannabis shop brand. So really interesting market, and again, just tons of kind of cultural history there and relevance from a cannabis standpoint.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And talk to us a little bit about Missouri now.
Yeah, so Missouri, a bit different, obviously. I think in some ways, some similar, kind of undertones. There's consumption, there's et cetera, but not nearly the same market size as Michigan. And Missouri is only medical right now. So that's obviously a big distinction. Michigan is both medical and adult use. That certainly allows for kind of a larger market, more participation, more consumers. Missouri right now is medical only, but we believe that Missouri will likely go adult use at some point, let's say in the next 24 months. And we're excited about that. And in general, because even as a medical market, Missouri is already over 150,000 patients in the state. I mean, the adoption has been pretty incredible. That's one of the faster states to get to that level of patient population. And there's just a ton of enthusiasm. I think people are really excited to have the industry. I think the state has been very supportive of the industry. There's, obviously a lot of jobs that come from this industry. There's tax creation. There's all these different things. So, yeah, we're pumped to be in Missouri. In Missouri right now, we have 5 stores, which is the most that they allow. And we also operate a manufacturing facility, and we're building a cultivation facility. So similar to our other markets, we always want to ideally have that kind of vertical presence where we can grow the plants ourselves, manufacture carts and concentrates, et cetera, from some of the derivatives, and then also be retailing. So I would say, I think Missouri has a ton of upside. I think that market's really going to open up, and you're going to see a lot of enthusiasm and some really exciting things happening.
I haven't heard like much on the legislative front about like any talks of adult use happening in Missouri. So is that on the table right now, or is that just something that you kind of see as happening in the coming years just because of the quick adoption or the vast adoption within the medical program?
No, it's quite a bit more tangible than that. There's actually a couple different initiatives underway right now that are out collecting signatures that are proposing adult use. So it currently is looking fairly likely that something should hopefully be on the ballot next year, so next fall. And polling in Missouri suggests that if that were the case, that it'd have a lot of support. So, again, it's not easy to predict these things, but right. I would say generally it seems pretty favorable that next fall, hopefully something is being voted on. And if it is being voted on, it should be fairly likely to pass. So, in a perfect world, we feel like 2023, there is a good chance that Missouri is an adult use market. But, again, you never know which way the wind may blow on those things, but it certainly seems positive, and it is definitely, more than a hope and a dream. There's actually some tangible initiatives underway.
Right. Well, that's great. I mean, a uniquely positioned C3 Industries and your retail brand, high profile, to really have a footing. You mentioned you already have 5 stores there, and just continuing to expand and grow the footprint within that market. So that's really exciting to hear. Talk to me about Oregon's market. So what role are y'all playing there? What do the operations look like in Oregon?
Sure. Yeah. So fairly similar in Oregon. So again, in all these markets, we always, first and foremost, we want to have an indoor facility. That's really where the Cloud Cover brand is focused, is on premium indoor flower, really tight environmental controls. We have a really talented cultivation team, again, led by my partner, Joel. So, that's where we always focus. So we similarly have an indoor facility in Oregon. That's cultivation and manufacturing. So in all of these facilities, we generally produce high quality flower. And then we generally, for Cloud Cover, what we focus on is concentrates and full spectrum cartridges. Cloud Cover is not meant to be a distillate only brand. That, for us is kind of off brand for Cloud Cover. So we really focus on those full spectrum categories. So flower, concentrates, and carts, that's what we produce in Oregon as well. And then we also have one retail location in Northeast Portland. And that's, again, the high profile brand. So, again, similar kind of general setup and structure where we want to be doing a little bit of everything. The Oregon market is one of the most competitive markets in the US. And you may already be aware of that or have some sense of that. And so, we're pretty proud to have gone into that market and really established, a nice brand following. We're in probably about 150 stores or so in the Oregon market as part of our wholesale business. And then obviously we have our own store. And it's a nice business. We've been there we've been in market now for almost 3.5 years in Oregon. And so we're excited about that. We actually just this year rolled out the lab side of that facility. It took a long time with permits and everything else. And so we just rolled out concentrates and cartridges. And so, for 2022, we're really excited to kind of continue cementing the Cloud Cover brand, outside of flower and now in some of those, kind of concentrate and cart categories.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then just to round up the state level conversation, Massachusetts, talk to us a little about that market and the footprint there.
Sure. So again, unfortunately, it'll be redundant. We're trying to have pretty consistent operations. So hopefully you're getting that sense here. So we again operate a 40,000 square foot indoor cultivation and manufacturing facility in Massachusetts. That actually just went online last month in October. And so we have plants in the building now. Our first harvest will be in February. Of course, that will also be same thing, Cloud Cover flower, Cloud Cover carts and concentrates, all full spectrum offering. And we're super, super excited about that. It took a little over 3 years, close to 3.5 for Massachusetts to come to fruition. It's definitely a slower moving state in terms of, getting all of your licensing in order, getting through permitting and construction. So we're pumped to be up and running. And we really think that we have an opportunity in Massachusetts to make a name for ourselves. Like, we're quite excited to go out and compete on the product side. We think people are going to be, I'm pretty hopeful people are going to be very excited about Cloud Cover. And then separately in Massachusetts, so Massachusetts allows any one company to have up to 3 stores. That's how their regulations are set up. And so we do have 3 stores. Again, those will be high profile stores. And the interesting thing on those 3 stores is that we have a really strong social equity partner in Massachusetts. That's something that we try to kind of execute wherever it makes sense to, and it's something we focus on. And in the city of Boston, this family that we're partnered with has done an incredible job navigating some of the local approval process, which can be very challenging in Boston. And so together, us and our partners there I believe we're the only group in Massachusetts that has 3 adult use stores approved in the city of Boston. And so we have locations in Dorchester, Roslindale, and Roxbury. And we're super excited. So all 3 should be opening between, let's say, February and April of next year, wow, which we're pumped about because there's really not many stores open yet in Boston. And as you can imagine, there's plenty of demand. And so I think it'll be nice to be able to roll those out. And what we did on the branding side that we're excited about is with our social equity partner there, they have a brand called Bodega. And so we've kind of done like a combined brand for those stores. So they will be, generally our brand is High Profile Cannabis Shop. You can see it on my hoodie here.
Yeah, that's a cool hoodie, by the way. I want to see. You. Do you sell those on the line? Because I need to get one, man. Wear it on the podcast.
Yeah, no, we do. We're setting up an apparel store now, but we would be happy to send you one, Kevin. So no need for you to look for the store.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, hey, our pleasure. We'd love to have you proudly repping it in Texas. So,
for sure.
But yeah, so those 3 stores in Massachusetts will be high profile bodegas as a nod to our partnership there, which again, we're pretty pumped. We think it's going to be a great kind of portfolio of stores in that Boston area.
Yeah, no, that sounds exciting. Congratulations on that big milestone for the company. And, you're right. I do hear this this consistency, this pattern of, what you said earlier in terms of C3 Industries really wanting to have a presence with their retail brand, high profile, and their flower brand, Cloud Cover, excuse me. So tell me, like, what is the end goal for C3 Industries? Like you mentioned at the beginning that you're not like your typical MSO where you want to just be big, right, and grow, but you want to produce high quality flower through your brand. But like, what's the end goal? Is it acquisition? Is it, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a fair question. I think generally speaking, we are not as focused on any kind of acquisition. Again, I think a big thing for us is that we believe, and we say this with all due respect to a lot of companies that are the same size as us or larger than us or smaller than us, but we believe that we're uniquely positioned to actually produce high quality product and understand the cannabis culture and cannabis consumer and have the ability to actually do it at scale and enter multiple markets, right? And if that's true and we are unique in that proposition, which seems at face value seems pretty straightforward, why couldn't more people do that? But that's not how most of these companies are set up. Most of these
Right.
companies are either capital markets beasts that understand how to raise and deploy and scale, but don't know anything at all about quality flower, are not consumers themselves, and
Or the culture
generally
overall, right? Like, yeah.
they totally miss. They're not even focused on the existing kind of legacy consumer. They're not understanding the cultural trends, et cetera. Or you have the opposite end of the spectrum, which are folks who live and breathe and die that culture and know it better than any of us, but may not have the ability to properly scale.
Right.
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 And so if we're right that we can marry those two things and that is unique, then really our plan is that we would like to go it alone. We will continue to expand the business as it makes sense. We'll go into markets that make sense for us. And we're just going to try to build a brand or brands in this space that are relevant and produce high quality products and that people trust and that have credibility and that understand the culture.
Right.
And we're a pretty young group. We're a pretty ambitious group. We have no need to throw in the towel anytime soon. So we're happy to kind of keep going as long as it makes sense to keep going. So we aren't looking at this as kind of where's the exit ramp? When is the exit ramp coming? That's not how we wanted to build this business. We've been, I think, slower than a lot of our competitors. We haven't bought other companies. We've done all of this organically on our own. We've just gone in, applied, won licenses, tied up real estate deals, just done expansion in the most natural way. And so, again, for us, I think, are we aware of competitive dynamics? Are we following what's happening in the markets? Of course. But are we sitting there saying we have to, get bigger for the sake of being bigger now? No, that's not really how we're approaching it. So again, this industry is so fast moving that it's hard to give a perfect answer to this, but
Sure.
In our heart of hearts, what we're hoping to do is continue building recognition and relevance for our brands. And then as it makes sense, expanding those into new markets.
The value proposition that you mentioned is sound, and I respect it. Like, you're staying true, right? You're staying true to what being a legacy cannabis consumer yourself, like having someone on your team like Joel who's been a cultivar and been in the industry. Because you're right. I mean, there are multi-state operators out there that are acquiring talent from outside industries that kind of know capital markets, like you said, how to raise and deploy cash flow, and they're moving away from the community aspect and cultural aspect of the plant, right?
Yeah.
And that's so inherent to the product overall. I mean, that's the plant brings everyone together, is what it does, right? And there's endless applications of the plant. And so if you look past that and you're chasing profit, that's a detriment to the industry as a whole at some point.
Totally. Well, and you look at some of these big companies that they're very big, they're profitable, they're running really impressive businesses from that standpoint, but they're not in the cultural conversation. There's no hype around them. No one's forming lines outside of their locations or getting excited about their product drop. No one, most people can't even mention their brands. They don't even know what they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus you look at like some of the players in the industry that are getting a lot of hype and enthusiasm and excitement. It's not because they're capital markets animals. It's because they talk the talk, they've lived the life, and they understand the culture, right? They're much more authentic. And again, I think everybody has their own stories in this space. Everyone has their own background, but we think we have a background that will lend itself to that, and we're trying to make sure we craft that message, and then, so what you said, stay true to it. Because again, it's easy to kind of get lost in the speed of what this industry is, but for us, we've always led with a kind of quality product first, and we believe we can kind of have everything else come from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Vishal, what excites you most, like, in the future, right? There's so many opportunities within this industry, and no one can predict the future as to what's going to happen, right? But with both political parties now stepping in, Schumer's bill, the CAOA, which has been presented earlier this year, followed by Representative Nancy Mace, who has now presented the States Reform Act. Like, obviously, this is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So what most excites you about the possibilities for cannabis in the future?
Yeah, a few things I would say. I'll say some nearer term things. So for us, first of all, we're from New York. So seeing New York starting to make some movement towards issuing some more licenses and becoming an adult use market is exciting. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a point of pride for Encore, Joel, and myself to have our brands and business here in New York.
Yeah.
So we're super excited about that. The other thing I'm really excited about, just going back to that kind of culture, some of the brand view for a second, is we are really actively building our marketing team right now and our marketing engine. And I'm excited to take this high quality product foundation that we've built and actually start doing some really strategic marketing around it and getting that word out there, starting to actually build some of that hype and culture, because we have really, again, to date, focused more so on the quality than the hype engine. And now we want to kind of marry those two. And we always wanted to do it in that order, right? I think there are some companies out there that are really good at hype and don't have great quality.
You want to make sure that you have the quality product first before you market it.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
100%. And that's the only way that we think it's actually sustainable, right? Because eventually, if you're all hype with not a lot of quality, people see through it, right? But now I'm really excited to see, to have that team spread their wings and really see what we can do as we put real marketing behind this high quality product that we know we have and that our consumers already love, even though we haven't done any marketing. So I'm pumped about that. And then, longer term, some of your questions on federal, I think we are very excited to see which way it plays out. And what I mean by that is I think we're probably a little bit more conservative than some on how quickly this will happen and how realistic it will be to navigate something like a very complicated Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And so we love seeing the bills. We like seeing the momentum. We're not entirely sure when exactly something may happen or what that might look like. I think, for us, the lowest hanging fruit would be more things like the SAFE Act, kind of some banking reform and, things like, from my point of view, at this point, we're past the days of the stigma. Like, the inflection point already happened. The people have spoken, states have spoken, state governments have spoken, and now multiple parts of the federal government have spoken, even if they haven't actually passed something. So the idea that,
including a sitting Supreme Court justice, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's just the support is there, right? Unfortunately, the way the world works is that that's not enough, right? Now the pieces have to fall in place, but at a minimum, some of these things that just make no logical sense anymore and that no one benefits from should go away, right? Like, records should be expunged. People should not be like getting incarcerated over like shit that doesn't make any sense, right? And you shouldn't have an industry trading in cash when it's like becoming a real business now, right? Like so I think some of that low hanging fruit, I'm excited more so because I also just think it will clean up a lot of issues that don't need to be issues. It will allow for more participation in the industry, and it'll just be a safer way to go. So like right now, some of these stigmas that exist also exist because of the fact that the business isn't allowed to operate like a normal business, right? So it's creating this silly loop. So I think those will be some really positive things. So, we're excited about all that. We are constantly always evaluating new market opportunities. And so we are looking at a couple new states now. So excited to see, the business kind of continue to grow. And then the last thing I'll say that we take a lot of pride in is we started this in 2017. Like I mentioned, it was, the three of us, childhood friends, brothers, and we had this dream, and we found this building in Oregon that was been vacant for 20 years and had a gravel pit driveway. And now we're almost 400 people. So seeing the team grow is unreal. And we have multiple facilities across multiple states that were fields of grass or pits of gravel when we got there. So seeing these things that take a long time, like Massachusetts, come to fruition is really fulfilling. So I'm excited to see what we've built kind of fully spread its wings.
Yeah, it's got to be rewarding, man, to just like how you said earlier, just staying true to kind of the core beliefs and the culture of cannabis, and leading with that, right? Focusing on the quality of the product, and then the hype will come, right? I mean, it's just doing it the right way. And that sounds like what you're doing at C3 Industries. So Vishal, really appreciate your time and the insights that you've shared today, man.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we're trying. We're gonna keep trying to stick true to that. That's our plan. So
absolutely, man. Where can people find y'all's website and social media channels if they want to learn more?
Sure. Yeah. So for C3 Industries, it's quite straightforward. It's www.c3industries.com. I will give a disclaimer that we are updating the website early next year, so there will be more information on there. It's definitely on the lighter side right now. You can also find any of us on LinkedIn. So Vishal Rungta, we put up a lot of stuff on LinkedIn if you want to follow what the company's up to. And then for Cloud Cover, it's cloudcovercannabis.com. And the Instagram handle is @cloudcovercannabis. And then for High Profile, it's highprofilecannabis.com. And the Instagram handle is High Profile Official. And so any of those would be good opportunities to see where we're at, see what we're doing. Again, our states are Oregon, Michigan, Massachusetts, and Missouri. For all you folks in Texas, I wish I was there. I wish I had the chance to give you some Cloud Cover product there as well, but hopefully someday soon.
I wish that too, Vishal. One day, man. I unfortunately, Texas might be one of the last states. But
we'll
hey,
see.
If
you never
not,
know.
Yeah, if not, I'll just make it out to Oregon, Michigan, Massachusetts, or Missouri.
You got it, man. And I'll make sure we get you some swag for both of the brands, so you can rep it in Texas in the meantime. And listen, you never know. I mean, who knows? Maybe Texas will decide to do it faster. But even if they are one of the last, they'll probably be one of the biggest states. It's going to be a big market whenever it comes.
Absolutely. Yep. Looking forward to that day, Vishal. Well, hey, I appreciate the swag. I appreciate you. And I know the audience really enjoyed the conversation, man. So keep up the great work, and look forward to have you back on real soon. Okay.
Yeah. We'll love that, Kevin. You got it, man. Take care.
Awesome. And thanks
you all
for listening. Bye.